Yes. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville, or Round Rock, or Ohio, or wherever we happen to be. We're in Pflugerville today. So, our topic today is joy. And when you look cross-references, by the way, I use Google, anybody familiar with that? And I Googled joy, and I came up with the reference to Galatians 5:22. And the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, and then a whole bunch more. Okay? So the fruits of the Spirit, and the Spirit is very interesting. Spirit is that part of us which is part of God, if I can use that terminology. Okay? So the word fruit is interesting, and I wanted to deal with it because it was fascinating to me how the idea of the root structure came up, and some other things that just happened to talk about, and they're all fit in with this idea. So again, I've got things all written down that I'm not going to use. But a fruit is something we ingest for our nutrition. Yes? Okay. So the fruits of the Spirit. So the things that we are to be taking in to lead a happy spiritual life are fruits. Yes? In a metaphor. Because remember, this is an idea that came out 2,000 years ago and was translated into today's modern language. So fruits today are different than they were back then. So it's called sustenance. Okay, so we can reach a point where we maintain, but then we need something that keeps us at a level of coherence and happiness and joy. And all we did was talk about happiness. Okay? So a fruit is something that sustains us as we take it in. So the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace. And it goes on and talks about long-standing and long-suffering, etc., etc. So they are all positive energies. Somebody define love for me. Can anybody do it? See, it's an ethereal thing. It's something outside. It's something beyond our comprehension. And it's an energy. And we know what it is by trying to describe it. So the fruit of the Spirit is love. So if you look at this, as a person thinketh in their heart, so are they. So our thoughts of love and joy and peace bring back together for us what? Love, joy, and peace. It's a very simple process. Where did you put my book, Madeline? Thank you. We started this week with Velma, Reverend Velma, in this book, Dynamics of Spiritual Living, or the Dynamics of Living. The question is, how do you live a happy life? How do you live a fulfilled life? And I'm going to quote some stuff from here because it's appropriate to what we're discussing this morning. And the main thing that I'm learning is it's so simple and we make it complicated. Okay, as a person thinketh in their heart, so are they. So as we think, we create. Okay, and Paul in Galatians is writing to the people in Galatia, and what happened to them, they had been converted. Understanding Paul's missionary journeys, all he did was bring in the idea of you are the Christ, you are full functioning energy of spirit, that Jesus modeled it, but we are capable of the same thing, which is what we're saying and what we share. So the idea behind that was that all we have to do is imbibe this fruit of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace. Okay? And this is Charles Fillmore, founder of Unity, and he's saying a new era has dawned. The old is passing away. In the advent of the new dispensation, the heavens are all rolled up into one thing. So the heavens are everywhere present, and the kingdom of heaven is within. Anybody agree what is heaven? Same thing as Shambhala, same thing as paradise. It's all that point of living life the way we were meant to live. So it goes on and says, the invisible forces are always the most powerful dynamics of mind control of the universe. So it's what we think about that determines who we are. Yes? And so if we're thinking love, peace, and joy. Now, there's a problem. There's always the fruits of thinking. So there's always the fruits of the human word. And Galatians 22 talks about them too. So the fruits of those type of things are, you ready? Things like impurity, lasciviousness. Isn't that an interesting word? Now these are words from the Bible, okay? Idolatry, witchcraft, enmity. Anybody know what that means? That's hate. Absolute hate. Anybody familiar with that? Which is part of our culture in today's world. And jealousy and anger, stubbornness. Anybody familiar with stubbornness?
No.
Okay. And it goes on. Envy. There's some I don't want to mention in here. But the whole idea is what we think about is what we create. And it's so simple. If we want to change things, we have to change what we're thinking. And then understanding the fruits. So the fruits of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit are peace, joy, happiness. Oh, there's some other things. Anybody agree? The word healing. So the word healing is going back to the original state of being. Okay, and what is the original state of being that is talked about in all the scriptures throughout all the different religions? It talks about the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of Shambhala, the kingdom of paradise. Jesus said, the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So there's all these wonderful things we talk about, and we don't experience it. We get a glimpse of it once in a while. So how do we live the life that we hope we could live? It's dealing with the fruits of the Spirit, which means living in love. Okay, now what is love? And what is heaven like? Heaven is a state of thinking, state of being. So what is that like? Somebody help me. We're going to get conversation started one way or another. By the way, we interact. Okay? Sometimes people from outside freak out, especially when they get questioned. What could heaven be like?
Just close your eyes and you can find out.
Say it again.
Just close your eyes and you can find out.
The kingdom of heaven is within. Okay?
Peaceful?
What?
Peaceful.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
Okay? What's interesting is the gifts of the Spirit are different than the fruits. Corinthians 1:12. Corinthians 12 talks about the gifts of the Spirit, which are the things we're looking for. Okay, which is peace, which is abundance, which is health, which is being able to be in relationship. Anybody agree with relationship as an issue? Mm-hmm. So how come? How come life is in harmony? How come all these promises in the Bible aren't there in my reality? So the question is, how did that occur? I'm going back here. I'm really getting a kick out of this. By the way, we need to be there tonight. Okay. But anybody here familiar with Reverend Grumman? She's really a dynamic lady. She really is. And she is teaching this class on Thursday night. And Matt will tell you, I got fascinated with what was going on. So it also says here, the New Testament is a sealed book to those who have no knowledge of the laws of mind. In other words, the Bible can be considered a historical document that tells stories. Okay, agree? But beyond that are the metaphors and the metaphysical interpretations that create how to live life, the dynamics of life. And those dynamics are as a man thinketh, or as a person thinketh in their heart. And the fruits of the Spirit are dwelling in love, joy, peace. What would it be like to be in joy all the time? We couldn't stand each other. What would it be like to be Pollyanna all the time? And people are going to say, well, that's not realistic. how do we know? Because we're surrounded by the other fruits of the human self, not the spiritual self.
We have to have the contrast.
We live in a contrast, we do. And it's a contrast that fools us, in my opinion. Because what is normal? The word normal fascinates me. It really does. What is normal? Anybody agree that the definitions of normal are changing quite a bit in today's world? Which is fine. It needs to be changed and updated. But what is normal for spiritual life? Somebody living in love, somebody living in joy, somebody living in peace, somebody living in health, somebody living in abundance. Now, within us is a code. I love the root structure idea. Okay? Because when you look at the brain is full of a network of nerves. And those nerves and all that, in all the tech, I'm not going to use technology words, but the idea is that there's a code in here. We know that the individual, you, me, all of us, radiate energy. We know that. We also know that we are radiation receivers. And anybody agree? You can tell what people are like if you're around them enough. They know that. So there's a radiation that occurs back and forth. The question is, what is that radiation doing? What is it changing? And see, the invisible forces of nature, we can't see it. Anybody? And it's like that. What's going on up here? Do you understand? That's there's a computer here that's putting a signal out into the ethers, and that TV is picking up that signal. So it's an exact metaphor for us individually. Okay? So there's a code within us, and that code is the perfection that we really are. Okay, so how come we don't live the way that code is? Because we've allowed other things to get in the way. Then we have to set up things like burning nights. We have to set up release to get rid of the false information we've been embedded in our consciousness over the years. Valerie.
So one of the things that we've studied more recently in Eye of the Storm is being centered. And what happens with the external world is we get pulled away from our center. And when we can stay in our center, when we can stay in what we know to be true about ourselves and let go of everything else, which is a constant challenge, right? 24/7, because you've got thoughts that come into your mind, you've got things that are things people are telling you.
And the TV's pumping things at you, and the next door neighbors all upset about this or that, and so it's constant. Okay? Now, when do we get peace on earth? See, it's a valid question. When everybody is at peace, which is right here. The kingdom of heaven is where? Within. And see, all these ideas have been there for years and years, and that's why I keep saying it's so simple. Now, can we change the world? One at a time we can. The only thing we can change is our world, our own personal world. And that world it's like the storm. There's a storm going everywhere, but I can be peaceful and happy and joyful and in love here. Okay? And that's a big issue. Okay? And it's almost like that's all there is to know. You know, I really laugh. A lot of you are aware that Madeline and I did talk. If you go through a training, we have been through training after training after training. We started with S years ago. Anybody remember that one? Okay, and on and on and on and on. I hate to. One of these days, I will add up how much money we have spent. And it all comes down to, as a person, think in their way and living in the fruits of the Spirit, which is difficult to do, in my opinion, in today's world. And that's what we're here to talk about. And the minute you walk out that door, you're subject to the rest of the world around you. said that, wouldn't it be, well, how do you live in joy? Because, see, happiness is a nice word, and happiness you can be. You can make a decision to be happy. However, the word joy is a spiritual word that means I'm totally satisfied, happy, and complete, and whole. The word whole, H-O-L-E. It means joy. So how can I be in joy? See, these are questions that need to be pondered. Okay? Would you agree there's really no answer to that question? And is there an answer? Yes. To stay in joy.
You go back to your natural state.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
It's like your sermon from last week, being okay with what is.
Yes. Remember last week we were talking about I can't make change until I accept what it is. In other words, here I am. You know, I'm a certain age, I have a certain amount of hair, I have a certain weight, this is me. And I can't make changes until I accept that and say, okay, where do I want to change? So life presents itself to us, and all of life is us getting feedback from what our consciousness is. See, consciousness is created by thinking, and I radiate my consciousness, and I live in the world of my consciousness. Isn't it? Thank you for being in my world. I don't know how I created all of you, but you're here. And see, that's the key to it. Now, is that a message that the average individual out there is going to understand? No. Because we're right back here where it says, New Testament is a sealed book to those who have no knowledge of the laws of mind. People have to be willing to reach a point where I'm understanding, or at least beginning to understand, and start doing the work that's necessary to change how I think. And that's where you get involved in meditation, doing burning bulb, reading books. That's why even the words in the song, do you understand the words we're asking you to sing? Okay, in the beginning, you know, what are the words in the opening song? Somebody help me. Come on.
God's going to do well.
I am whole. Did you hear? So everything that beginning of the service that Larry's put together over the years, the months, they are affirmations of wholeness, joy, peace. Okay? And then the meditation song is As I Am. So these are all affirmations. And anybody, I don't know about you, but I wind up singing some of the songs during the week. And that's the intention, is to change the conversation, change the thinking. And I keep saying I'm going to get away from the TV. However, I still get sucked into it. That's life. Okay? So, having said that, as you can tell, I'm way off what I want to talk about. Let's go back. Okay? We are consciousness. People exhibit their consciousness. In other words, if somebody is loving and kind, they have to have a consciousness that is loving and kind. And how do you establish a consciousness that's loving and kind? You be loving and kind. Over in a self-development situation, which I trained for years, you make up a story and then you rehearse it. It's like set a goal and decide what you want to do, create a picture of it, and then start affirming that picture. Okay, so how do you be joyful? Same thing. It's a consciousness that we create over a period of time, and it takes time to do that. And it's right back to what Dari was talking about, that here I am in the middle of the storm, and for me to be at the eye of the hurricane is to self-centered, to be centered within myself. So it's giving up the concerns. Anybody here reached the point, and I'm sure it never happened to anybody here, but all of a sudden you don't have enough money to pay the bills at the end of the month. what's the first reaction? Oh my God, terror. Okay? Now, how can you isolate yourself from that storm around you and know that God is good and all is well? That takes time. That takes a new conversation. It takes a conversation of love, joy, and peace. The conversation starts like, well, if I really am a child of God, and if God is really here, and if I'm part of that, then there must be a way for me to make a connection. So what I'm seeing or hearing is false, and all I have to do is go back into the center of my consciousness and go back to the root of God. It's called spirit. So we're talking spiritual conversation, and it's not religious, it's spiritual. Okay? Now, I'm starting to preach, which I want to get away from. I don't want to do that. But I'm really preaching to myself. Because, I don't know about you, I get stuck, yes? Right.
So earlier you mentioned the verse, as you think in your heart, so the world creates from there.
Yeah.
So thinking is mental and the mind.
Yes.
So thinking in the heart is not thinking in your mind.
So thinking in the heart is how is it different?
You can't put words to it.
I know. See, that's the connection we're talking about. That's why it's a new era. It's a new conversation. Now, it's an old conversation from thousands of years ago. However, it is. It's connecting with the heart mind rather than the mind or the physical mind. Or it's connecting with spirit or the Christ and not the ego. See, a lot of words for it, and we get lost in words. Okay? Anybody else?
Question.
Yes.
When you were saying that, I went back to the part in mind
Good.
where God says, "I am that I am."
I am that.
That I am. I am embodying that which I take on. If I'm being love, I am love. I'm projecting love. I'm bringing that everywhere I go.
Good.
Same with joy and peace. If you let the things that are outside, come into you, then you're embodying that. You are becoming those things like hatred or anger,
Thank you.
frustration from the outside.
Good.
That brings me back to like the centering thing.
Keep going.
I am that I am.
I am that.
If I'm embodying the idea of love, joy, peace from my heart, then I'm being that.
Thank you. That's the idea of the fruits coming in. Okay, thank you for that. Okay. That's one of those issues that people get stuck on. Okay, because whatever I look at, I am that is really what we're saying. Yes.
I'm taking some notes back here.
You got a note?
I'm taking some notes back here. And what I just wrote down was to let your heart sing. Your heart wants to sing, just let it sing. Figure out what's getting in the way, what's blocking it or stopping it. Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody around you. But if you want your heart to sing all the time and you intend it, then you have to figure out how to create that environment.
If you
Yes.
want more love, you gotta give more love.
Yep.
If you want more peace, you gotta give more peace.
You want more money, you gotta give more.
So to give it, you have to create it inside yourself.
The word have to, I want to nuance it a little bit.
Okay?
It's part of the heart language to do it. It's not an obligation, it's what flows out of the heart. So,
So we
see,
just
I
gotta
have
get out of
tendency,
the way.
Huh?
We just gotta get out of the way
Yeah.
yeah,
and just allow it.
see, it's all of,
Back to the line.
the biggest issue we're talking about is
False.
accepting who you are. You are either, you accept your child of God divinity as such, or it's over here. Because the ego wants us to stay there, which is the brain, and the spirit wants us to stay over here, which is a new language which is coming up here. And I'm thinking about that, RJ. The heart wants to sing. The heart wants to run our lives, and we don't let it. Because we get stuck, oh my God, what if? We get hung up on what if. Somebody else. See this?
I'm looking at the miracle aspect of all this, how when we're in the flow of things, how it starts with little miracles right in front of us and it just gets bigger and bigger, so we know we're right on the right trail.
And that's an outcome of gratitude. In other words, being grateful produces more things to be grateful. So it's all consciousness. It's all who am I? Who am I? And what am I doing here? And we're going through that with the church. We're looking at who are we? What do we do? And we're continuing that conversation. Because do we have a conversation that's valuable for today? I believe it is. Okay? And we're just in the beginning stages of this whole process. And you're the ones that are making it happen. Because you're bringing a consciousness of love in. Everybody's looking for it. No, it's correct, not correct. A lot of people are looking for appreciation, love, and being part of a group that makes a difference. Okay? And what are we up to? We're up to sharing these ideas. Okay? Now, there's a key here, though. We have to practice what we preach. So, are we learning to meditate? And the only way to learn to meditate is somebody help me. Meditate. Take the quiet time. Do it. Are there any secrets to it? Nope. Sit down, shut up in the chair. Okay? And be quiet. And start maybe 5 minutes and keep working on it every day. Okay? Reading some Bible information. Might be interesting to even to read the Bible from a metaphysical standpoint, which is a new conversation. Or we got all, you might agree, but we've got all kinds of books. We got libraries, we got and website. Anybody been on our website lately? RJ keeps amazing stuff on it. So it's doing the work. Okay? And it's becoming the individual that I want to be and imagining it in my mind and creating it through consciousness. Okay? And until you reach a certain point in your path, it doesn't sink in. Okay? Yes?
I like another forum for spending time learning about spiritual principle is the website truthunity.net, which is Mark Hicks' work. If you're an Eric Butterworth lover or some of the other teachers, you can actually go on there and listen to some of Eric's sermons from when he was in New York and when he was in other places. And just, it's a great place if you've got a question about a principle or something. It's got a search engine that you can type, but it's another really great repository of unity principle.
Yeah, he got me. I was in his work, looking by Clark. By the way, Mark Hicks, he was the LUT at Unity on the Hills, and Mark is really responsible for me and a lot of you being here in Pflugerville, because he's the one that got us and said, hey, you want to look at opening your church here in Pflugerville. Do you know that? Didn't know that. Valerie's part of it, I think. Those conversations took place.
You and he took a drive.
Yeah.
You and he took
We
a
drove
drive.
all
and
over Pflugerville and Ramblock.
then you came back and you said, hey, what about this area?
Very, very interesting conversation. So anyway, anybody else? I want to say the kingdom of heaven is within. It's there. It's learning the new language of the heart. It's learning the new language of who you really are. It's learning, forgetting about the language of the ego that's telling you you can't do it. Okay? I want to thank the youngsters for being so attentive. They've been great. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'm finished.